You're listening to the GunHunterPlanet podcast, your gateway into the great outdoors. So sit back, relax over a campfire, and enjoy the show. GunHunterPlanet, where guns and heritage come together.
Hello, and welcome to the GunHunterPlanet podcast. Yeah, I'm looking forward to this hunting season. So, Jamie, let's talk a little bit about how did you get into gun hunting? I know we're both bow hunters and gun hunters. Yeah. How'd you get into gun hunting?
And I think that's a good way to start this, right? Kind of tell who we are, how we got here, and maybe I'll start a little bit about how we're gonna run this GunHunterPlanet thing.
Okay,
right? It's us. We're I don't want to say amateurs, but we're amateurs, right?
Yeah.
We know enough about guns to be safe and what we need to use and the ammunition and all that kind of other stuff. But I kind of want to take everybody on a journey with us, especially for some stuff we're not super, intelligent about different like twist rates and all that, all the gun stuff. We want to kind of take you from where we're at, and hopefully everybody can grow with us.
Yeah.
Right. And learn and be safe. And I want this to be a place where everybody can come and ask. Right.
Yeah, sure.
Because, I know you watch a lot of videos on YouTubes, and that's what people are talking about, all these in detail things. And to be quite honest, nobody really cares about that.
Yeah.
They want to know how the gun works, shoots, how safe it is, how to load it, how to unload it, what you need for it, stuff like that.
Yeah. But, the other thing is, and what's really exciting is we can get guests on the show. If we don't know something and you want to know something, if you got questions, let us know. We'll find the guest who has the answers.
And so it's a lot easier with guns. A lot of military people, a lot of gunsmith and FFL guys, and then we can bring them all on here and we'll all learn something.
Yeah, and the main focus of this is hunting. Yeah, we are both hunters. We both, I've been hunting. I actually started hunting with a gun. Then I went to bow. I've hunted crossbow. But I enjoy them all. I really do. Each one has their own unique, type of feeling to it. I mean, you hunt with a bow, it's, you got to get up close and personal. It's hard. You hunt with a gun, you can kind of take in and relax and take more. To me, I can look around and take in nature, and I may spot a deer that's far out, and I can relax. Where when you're bow hunting, you can't let your guard down. But not that you can let your guard down with gun hunting, but it's just different feeling that I have when I'm with it in hunting with it too. But I enjoy them both.
No, but and that gun, obviously guns are still the bigger, the Orange Army comes out. I'm part of the Orange Army.
Yeah, I have been for years.
And that's the guys, we want to talk to. So
yeah. And speaking of that, so the tradition for me is, we're from Michigan. Michigan's opening gun is November 15th. Holiday. Has been since I was
holiday where I grew up.
Yeah.
Nobody was in school.
Yeah. And it has been. Now, I did not grow up hunting. My dad was not a hunter. Yeah. And I got turned on to hunting when I had a friend who hunted, and he got me into it probably when I was 18, 19 years old. And then I started taking it even more serious as I got older, got to work, and guys I worked with hunted. And, it's been a tradition now. I've been to hunt camp with a friend of mine that I used to work with on the fire department. It's been over 30 years, and we don't always get deer, but we always go to deer camp, and it's a great time. And, you think, oh, you're using a gun, you're going to get a deer every time. No, it don't work like that.
No. And just the time, you need the time with the guys. I've read something somewhere that's a big part to keep you mentally healthy. I have that time out in the woods with the guys, and that's all you're thinking about is hunting, maybe drinking some beers at night.
Yeah. Well, for me, I mean, when I was younger, I worked, for people who don't know, I worked on the fire department, and that can be a stressful job. And after a while, you just need to get away from it. And my whole thing with where I hunted, I would go up and just get in the woods, and it would always take me a day or two to get into the mode where I was finally relaxed enough that, you know, in the beginning, every little sound you're jumping at, you know, and stuff like that. And after a few days and you finally settle into nature, everything becomes so relaxed, and, you know, you'll hear a noise and, okay, I know what that is. I don't even have to look, you know, and things like that. And you don't have anything like that when you grew up like me. In this, I grew up in the city, the big city. It, you know, you didn't have that kind of nature, and I love it, you know. And to be quite honest, sometimes you'll be, you know, I've had times where I was sitting there and I'm so relaxed, and all of a sudden a deer comes around. It's like, oh man, it kind of broke my broke the mood. Oh yeah, that's what I'm here for, you know. I'm here to take one of these, you know, and let me get busy. So
yeah, so I was on the other end of that. I did grow up in the country, right? And I, you know, I couldn't wait to get out. Now I can't wait to get back. But anyway, but yeah, my dad hunted. Yeah, he's always hunted. He was always the biggest hunter, you know, in his family. And probably when I was about 8 years old, he started taking me out with him. And, you know, back then you get the crappy little Meyer boots with the felt inserts. Your toes were cold by the time you even got to the stand.
Yeah.
And I'm just tucked in one of the, you know, every stand we had was something that he built up in the tree, you know, just some wood, some plywood. And I'd sit in the corner just freezing, getting yelled at, stop sniffling. And but then when I think I was 10, he got me a 410 pump, and I learned how to shoot that. And I took a doe when I was 10, which was crazy. You know, that first deer, they tried to make me drink a cup of blood. I wouldn't do it. They almost got me because a neighbor came over and said I had to do it too. So I almost believed him.
Yeah.
But no, that just got me hooked from there. And then, you know, I didn't really even get into bow hunting till I did a little bit, but probably not until college. I lived with some guys who were big into it. So basically from 10 to 20, 22, you know, it was November 15th was the day I looked forward to, so I could get finally back out there and shoot a nice deer.
Yeah. See, I didn't take my first deer until I was well into my 20s.
Yeah.
I hunted several years without success, you know, and it's all a learning process, you know. I wouldn't call it a failure because each time I learned a lesson. And finally, I took my first deer in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. I did it with a Ruger Mini 30, which is a 7.62 by 9mm. And, you know, I made a good clean shot it. It was actually a heart shot. And I was amazed how, you know, I shot it and it ran away. And I thought, well, did I miss, you know? But I had an old guy that lived up there, grew up in the Upper Peninsula. He was an old Finlander, and he basically taught me and my friend how to hunt. And, you know, I came in and he's like, yeah, you know, I heard the shot, you know, did you get one? I go, I don't know. I shot and he ran away. And he goes, you got that gun sighted in? I go, yeah, you know, I practice. I go, I'm practice, make sure I got
this. Sounds familiar.
Yeah, you know, you got that gun. And I'm like, yeah, I got it sighted in, but I shot. And he goes, what did he do? You know, and I'm thinking like, well, he just ran away. He goes, was his tail up or down? And I didn't even think about anything like that. And I thought about it. I go, well, his tail never went up. He goes, oh, you got that deer. He goes, you got him. He's hurt. He says, if a deer is scared, he's going to run with the tail up. He said, if he's hurt, that tail goes down between the leg like a hurt dog, you know? And I'm like, holy cow. So it was snowing pretty hard by then. He says, I'm not going out in the snow. He said, we'll go out and find it tomorrow. And sure enough, next morning we went out and I told him which way the deer went. He didn't even go that way. I said, what's this guy doing? But he knew which way deer would run up there. He just knew the land, you know.
Right. It's nice when you get to that point, because we're kind of like that at the lease now. You know, and Dave's not here, when he wounds something, right? I know exactly where it's going on the neighbor's property. Whenever there's a shot, and whether it's hitting it good or not, it's like this scene flipping trail.
Yeah.
And somehow they always make it across.
Yeah. Well, so, they got their escape routes.
We got a good neighbor, whatever. Let's just go over there and get them. But I'm like, can we just get a couple that stop before?
Yeah. The funny thing was this, my first deer that I got, he walked me right by it. He literally walked me right by it. It looked like a rock with snow on it. And he walks me by it. I pass it by about 10 feet and he goes, what the shit kind of hunter are you? I'm like, what are you talking about? He goes, there's your deer. I'm like, holy cow. But you know what? That was the beginning. Here we are 30 years later, and I could take somebody out in the woods and teach them how to hunt. I learned so much from that gentleman. His name was Toivo. I give him a shout out, Toivo Mackey. And I learned so much from him. And, now I can track, you can get down to a speck of blood and I'll find that deer. I rarely lose a deer. And, I mean, anybody can lose a deer. It can happen, but I rarely lose a deer.
Yeah.
And, what kind of weapon are you hunting with now?
So now I have the Bushmaster 450.
Oh,
yeah,
downstate hunter.
Yeah, so I'm not above the rifle line here in Michigan. So our lives kind of changed 3-4 years ago. Because probably I got rid of the 410 when I was 15 or 16, and from 16 till I got, I bet you 24 years I was using the same 870 Express shotgun.
Yeah. For those of you who don't know, in Michigan is divided up into about halfway through the state. The lower part of the state is what they call the shotgun zone. And the upper part of the state and the upper peninsula is rifle zone. That's why when I hunt now, I use a 30-06. But why don't you go ahead and talk about the gun you're using now, because like you said, things changed about 3 years ago.
So they let us use straight wall cartridges, so like a 450 Bushmaster, a 350 Legend, and finally we can reach out to 200 yards safely.
Yeah.
Right. And after that kind of teeters off, I probably wouldn't shoot farther than that. But I didn't like shooting over 50, 60 yards with my shotgun. Right. So this kind of changes the game for all of us. And when that came out, man, I mean, especially back home in the country, because I'm from the west side of Michigan, those guns went crazy.
Yeah.
Now everybody has them. You can't find the ammo.
Yeah, I wish I had stock in that gun.
No, so when it first came out, a guy, I think Randy's in Bad Axe, came up with the idea. So I had a guy at work who had like 3 or 4 of them. He had long barrels and short barrels, and he's telling me about this gun. I'm like, are you sure? And then all of a sudden Ruger figured it out and made a mass produced one with a muzzle brake, and it's really short. It kicks maybe like a 20 gauge. So I don't, I put a nice bog down for the kids and they can shoot it.
Yeah, it's like that because
super
of that
light
muzzle brake.
Yeah,
that 450 without a muzzle brake kicks like a mule.
That's about 12 gauge.
Yeah, that's a funny thing about. So you're downstate hunter using a shotgun, and downstate there's a lot of open farmland, and you can get those 200-300 yard shots. For me, I hunt in the upper peninsula in the thick woods.
Right.
My shot, I'm lucky to get anything over 50 yards, because after 50 yards you can't see
like electrical line.
Yeah, but where I'm at, there's nothing like that. I'm hunting in the thick woods, and it's like or a swamp or something like that. And like I said, you're lucky to even see a deer over 50 yards, let alone get a good clean shot. And there's no such thing as, like, if they're far away, there's no running shots. I mean, if it's I've seen many a deer that are, especially during the rut, they got their head down and they're just motoring through the woods, Yeah. And there's, 80 to 100 yards out, there's no good shot. I mean, and I'm going to take an ethical shot. I want to know that I'm going to hit a good clean shot. And I also want to know what's behind that shot.
That's the number one thing, especially when you're kind of by where we hunt on our lease. I mean, there's houses, there's a house in the woods. So we always got hangars and all this stuff because we're at an airport. So there's certain angles that we just don't, that's not even an option.
Yeah. And hopefully more people do that, like if you're a gun hunter, there's some responsibility that goes with that. These weapons can reach out a long way. It's not like flinging an arrow that's only going to go 40, 50 yards and die. You're reaching out. So you got to be ethical about it. You got to make sure you know what's out there and what you're looking at, what's behind what you're looking at.
And safety and handling them. You know, I grew up in the 80s, so you know, when I was pointing the gun in the wrong direction, I got swapped upside the head. And I learned pretty quick where my gun needs to be pointed in, up or down, or you know,
Yeah.
away from everybody, unloaded until, you know, always act like the gun's loaded. So, you know, that's the number one thing I was trying to teach my kids now, and which I think is a good thing.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know, you never know whose house they're going to be at, because kids now, they'll play video games and they just assume everything's a toy, and that's,
Yeah.
you know,
No, you
I
gotta
think it would
be,
really help if they'd learn how dangerous they are and what they can
yeah,
do.
you definitely, you definitely need to get them in hunter safety as soon as
Yeah.
they're old enough to understand. And
Yeah, I let my
and-
son, he's 12. I mean, he went through it because I was going to help him. You know, if he had questions, he just went through the whole thing by himself.
yeah.
So
One thing I haven't done, and that I'd like to do in the future, and maybe we'll do a podcast about it and get somebody in who knows more about it, is hunting with a pistol. I've never taken an animal with a pistol. I know there are certain calibers of pistol that are
Yeah.
good for taking large game, as well as small game and stuff like that. And as we go on with this Gun Hunter Planet podcast, we're going to get into all kinds of hunting, not just deer hunting. I rabbit hunted, I small game hunt, and pheasant, bird hunting.
No, I got a guy at work actually had just sold him a bow, and he's a big duck hunter. So he trains dogs and he knows all
Yeah.
that stuff. So maybe
There's a
actually
whole
get
nother
there.
aspect of hunting, and that's one thing I've never done. Is never done the duck hunting. So I'm not sure I'm going to at my age.
It
I'm
gets
not sure.
pretty expensive.
I'm not sure
with
if I can.
decoys and dogs. And,
Yeah, and you got to go out in the worst weather. You hear
and
the
it falls
people.
in bow season, which
Yeah, you hear the people say, "Yeah, this is duck weather," and I look out. I'm like, "Yeah, okay." So, but you know what? We'll be glad to talk about it on these podcasts.
Yeah.
It'd be great to get some duck hunters in, on here who know a
Yeah.
lot about it, what guns they use, what they use. I know in Michigan there's rules on what kind of shot you can use and stuff like that. So I think there's a lot of exciting things to come, and I'm looking forward to it.